Welcome to the Go Borderless podcast, where we explore what it means to truly transcend geographical, cultural, and logistical barriers in our increasingly interconnected world. I'm Mariuk, your host. In today's special documentary episode, we're diving into the fascinating world of diplomatic life through the experiences of Rahul, an Indian diplomat who has served across 4 continents. His journey offers unique insights into the challenge and rewards of a truly borderless career. As a 5-time expat myself, I was captivated by Rahul's experiences on the global mobility from the diplomatic angle, a profession that embodies the concept of going borderless in its purest form. Every relocation story has a beginning. For Rahul, his most recent transition brought him to Namibia in southern Africa, a dramatic shift from his previous posting in Romania. I was curious to learn about his initial impressions of this new environment.
It's a nice place, quite small, although in terms of area it's very big. Because I give a comparison like this. Before Romania, I was in India, where the capital is more than 20 million, capital city. But when I moved to Romania, the country was 20 million. The capital was 8 million. And now I have moved to Namibia, where the population of the country is about 2-something million.
Namibia represents Rahul's first posting in the Southern Hemisphere, bringing with it a unique set of adjustments beyond the cultural, including altitude and climate differences that many of us don't consider when relocating.
I'm in the Southern Hemisphere, so interesting to see different weather, a different kind of experience. Because this is also at an elevation of 1,600 or 800 meters. Initially, when you come, it takes some time to adapt yourself, acclimatize.
What struck me about Rahul's experience in Namibia was how historical connections created unexpected familiarity. Despite the geographical distance between India and Namibia, colonial histories created shared systems that eased his transition.
Culturally, from Romania, it is different, but I would say I'm used to this kind of environment because Namibia's history is some way similar to India's, and because here everyone speaks English, the system that they follow is very familiar to me. So that way, I wouldn't say that it's very, very different from what I am used to in India.
What draws someone to a career that requires constant movement and adaptation? For Rahul, the diplomatic path fulfilled a deep-seated desire for exploration while maintaining connections to his homeland.
Yeah, every person, every diplomat has a different story. So I have my own. It may not be true for other diplomats, but even when I was growing up, I wanted to be in a job which takes me from one continent to other. I change countries, get to see new cultures, learn different languages. But there are these 2 categories of people: those who love what is around them, so that is their comfort zone, they want to be there. And then there is this other category who want to go out, want to explore. So all diplomats are in the second category, and I'm also in that category, so I can't stay put in one place. And then diplomacy also provides you a good link with your home country. So if I was in the private sector, I go to one country, from there second country I take up citizenship, and then the connection gets lost. So diplomacy that way, it gives you the best of both worlds. You are connected to your own country, you are able to serve your people at the same time. What I said, you can go to various countries, live in different continents, see different kinds of people.
This balance of exploration and connection is something many globally mobile professionals seek. But diplomats experience this at a unique institutional level, officially representing their homeland while immersing themselves in new cultures. Rahul's career has taken him on a remarkable journey spanning 4 continents and multiple countries.
As diplomats, we spend some time in our foreign ministry, and then we go abroad to serve in missions. My diplomatic career started in 1999. It's been to, if I don't count repeat countries such as Russia, I've been posted there twice. So this would be my 6th foreign assignment. Yeah.
What's particularly fascinating about diplomatic careers is how they often lead to countries that typically expatriates might never experience. These postings offer insights into cultures and systems that remain outside the mainstream expat narrative.
And after Russia, after my first posting, I went to Kazakhstan. In Kazakhstan, I was in both places, Astana and Almaty, 2 years in Astana, 1 year Almaty. Then my first ambassadorial assignment was Venezuela. That was 2015 to 18, and then I went back to India. Interestingly, my last 4 postings have been in 4 continents. If I don't count Russia, if you count that as Eurasian continent, then I was in Eurasia. Thereafter, I went to Latin America. From there, I went to Asia. Then I came to Europe, and now this is my 4th continent. 10 years, 4 continents.
One of the most significant challenges for any globally mobile person is adapting to new cultural contexts. For diplomats, this adaptation isn't optional. It's essential to their mission.
In India, we have a lot of civil services, and most, in fact, all of them, but the foreign service, and that is true all over the world, are home-based civil services. So if you have a civil servant, he or she is working in the country, dealing with a system that is very familiar to them. As a diplomat, you deal with a system which is not at all familiar to you. So if, for example, I come to Romania, I'll deal with the Romanian government, the Romanian Foreign Ministry, Romanian Ministry of Culture, whatever. So even the people, they are a different set of people. I have never dealt with them. So I'm going to an unknown territory, so to say. Similarly, if I come to Namibia, although I am familiar with the kind of system because we have a common history, but still their systems are different. And as a diplomat, in the first 3 years, you have to not just learn that system, you have to adapt to that system, and then you have to deliver. So you have got just 3 years. Other people might have maybe 30 years to do their work, but we have got just 3-4 years with which you have to first learn, adapt, and then deliver. So that way, I would say our work is a little more difficult than other civil servants.
The time frame of diplomatic postings creates a unique pressure. With typically just 3 years in each location, diplomats must rapidly learn, adapt, and deliver results, a process that might take others decades.
Generally, I would say as a diplomat, sometimes we don't get a very long notice. I might know that, okay, for example, Namibia, I knew since last year, May, that I'll be moving to Namibia. But when you are moving and when that period comes, sometimes the notice is very short. And that happened in case of my transition from Romania to Namibia. And there were other complications. Number one, the time was very short. So you have to pack up and then leave. And in my case, I had to go to India because by that time when I was to leave Romania, my approval from the Namibian government had not come. So I can't arrive here before that comes, which means I had to go to India. That complicated my transition a little more. But that's part of our life as diplomats. I can't say that we are fully prepared for it, but we expect that at some point of time it might happen that you have to leave at short notice, or when there is some urgent development. There have been cases where people have to leave the same night, the next morning.
Language becomes a critical tool in this adaptation process.
Apart from Hindi, which is my mother tongue, I know several Indian languages, like in the east part of India. I grew up there. There's a language called Oriya. I know that. I know Bangla, or people call Bengali. I can understand a couple of other languages, Punjabi or Gujarati. English, of course, I know. Russian is my official language, so I know that.
Rahul's linguistic abilities, spanning multiple Indian languages, Russian and Spanish, have been essential to his success across diverse postings. Behind the protocol and formality of diplomatic transitions lies a deeply human experience, one filled with uncertainty, short-notice changes, and emotional challenges. Rahul shared a particularly poignant example involving his family's beloved pet.
Namibia from Frankfurt, they said that they don't take large dogs, or there was some issue that they don't take dogs at all. So we had to cancel that, and by that time our dog's condition was not very good. So we were wondering, and the doctors were saying that you can't take such long flights. So we said, okay, we left the dog in Romania we said, okay, we'll come again and the dog's condition is better and we'll take the dog. Unfortunately, the dog passed away after we reached Namibia and we couldn't bring. So that's a very difficult transition, because then we feel bad that all this happened while we were not there. If the dog was with us, then it is still a loss, but the fact that she wasn't with us makes the loss. Remember the good times, because it's always sad when such a thing happens, but we try to relish the memories that we built together.
This experience highlights how the most difficult aspects of global transitions often involve emotional attachments rather than logistical challenges. Pets become a family member whose welfare is a top priority during international moves. These rapid transitions create a complex emotional landscape, a mixture of sadness for what's being left behind and anticipation for new opportunities ahead.
While you're leaving, you feel very sad in some places. You want to move out, not because you are tired of the place, but then you want to move out because you feel, okay, I spent so many years, I think I have done my work and I want to go to a new place. But yes, any place that you leave, and because you have lived for several years, you feel sad about it. We get an extension if your child is studying in class 12, then you get a year's extension.
This emotional duality is familiar to expatriates, the bittersweet nature of global mobility. We grow attached to places while simultaneously cultivating the desire for new experiences and challenges. Having worked in the relocation industry myself, I was particularly interested in how diplomatic status affects the moving process. While there are certainly advantages, the process isn't without its challenges.
In general, I would say for diplomats, the logistics part of it, relocation process is smoother because we don't go through, I think, once you say that, okay, there's a diplomatic consignment coming, we don't have a lot of problems happening. And we have, in most places, the foreign ministry, the host country, they have a protocol department which deals with this. So they know the process. And then once you write letters to them, they will give the approval within certain days. Even at the ports, usually we don't face problem, but it does not mean there are no problems at all. There's a recent case we are dealing with, and this person's baggage reached some other port and he had to pay demurrage, although it was not his fault. All those things do happen. But in general, I would think that our relocation process is a little more smoother than if you're doing it privately.
The diplomatic moving process is more tightly controlled than private relocations, with greater accountability when government resources are involved. This creates a different dynamic between movers and clients. Yet, even with these systemic advantages, diplomatic moves face similar logistical hurdles to those encountered by other expatriates. A diplomat's arrival in a new country follows distinct protocols that set the stage for their official duties. This process can vary significantly based on diplomatic rank and host country procedures.
It differs. For example, for a high commissioner or an ambassador, it's different from what other diplomats would do. When ambassador arrives, then there's some protocol that happens. So you carry a copy of your credentials, which first meeting that you have is with the protocol, or there's the chief of protocol, maybe sometimes foreign minister who you have your meeting with, and that starts the process. Because after that you are either allowed to meet, some countries say that okay, you can now go and meet people in the government, but some countries are more restricted. So you have to then do the presentation of credentials to the head of state, the president, and thereafter you can do your work. In case of the transition in terms of the housing, etc., again, at least I can talk about India, most places have a designated house for the ambassador or the high commissioner, which has more or less, which has got almost all facilities. So when I arrive in some place, I would be feeling a little more settled in my house than some of the other diplomats who might have to rent accommodation. So they might stay in the hotel for some time, or they are going into an accommodation where they might have to wait for their baggage to come. In case of at least India, if I go into the ambassador's residence, they'll have utensils, they'll have a kitchen which is running, so that way it's easier to settle down for a high commissioner or an ambassador. I don't think anyone becomes a master, but yes, you try your best. In some countries where you don't know the language, you go and pick up the language. That helps, and try to adapt as early as possible so that you can have some outcomes, some results.
Housing arrangements reflect the permanence of diplomatic missions, with many countries maintaining official residences for their senior representatives.
Some countries have a standard protocol. For example, if you go to India, no matter what your relations, no matter which country you are, you meet the chief of protocol and hand over a copy. Settling in is more dependent on the facilities that you have. So it doesn't really much depend on what political relations you have. If you have a good house, you have a chauffeur, your house is running well, yes, that part is maybe same everywhere. But
this continuing proximity in physical space contrasts with the regular turnover of personnel, creating an interesting tension between institutional permanence and individual transience in diplomatic life. The relationship between host and home countries significantly impacts a diplomat's experience. When relationships are positive, doors open more easily, literally and figuratively.
So you are operating at a level where things can get done faster, or in terms of access also, if you are in a difficult country with whom you don't have very good relations, sometimes access is a problem, or you may not be able to meet, for example, the ministers in various ministries, and then sometimes work gets stuck.
The historical relationship between India and Namibia illustrates how diplomatic groundwork laid decades ago continues to facilitate connections today.
But yes, if depending on the relations, your work may be easier or harder depending on how close you are to that country. Namibia, for example, we have very good relations with Namibia, and historically also, even before they became independent, we helped them fight get independence. India was in fact the first country which talked about Namibia's independence in the United Nations. The first foreign resident embassy of SWAPO, which is the party here with the ruling government party, their resident mission firstly opened in India in 1986 before they got independent. So these are things which build the momentum for the relations, and people remember that. That is why if I'm in Namibia, where we don't have any problems between our countries.
These pre-existing relationships create a foundation of goodwill that can make a diplomat's job significantly more enjoyable and effective. Relationships matter at every level of international engagement. Diplomatic careers don't just relocate individuals, they relocate entire families. The impacts on spouses and children are profound, creating both challenges and opportunity.
Right now, both of them are university, so this is the first time we are moving without our children. It was a bit easier because we don't have to worry about the school. But emotionally, yes, difficult because they are staying far away. Our daughter is doing financial mathematics and our son is doing computer science.
For diplomatic children, frequent relocations shape their worldview and develop particular qualities: resilience, adaptability, and cultural awareness.
Easy for them, but also it's fun. And when I see our children, they have lived in so many places. Their outlook is different.
Educational continuity becomes particularly important for those families. International schools often provide curriculum stability across different postings, though sometimes children must adapt to entirely different educational systems.
We went to Moscow the second time. Then initially for a year they had to go to an Indian school there. We have one. And thereafter the next year they moved to an international school. And when we went back to India, similarly, they had to do a couple of years in an Indian school. The system was a bit different, but that again exposed them to a different kind of experience. It was helpful. Initially, yes, it is tough because it's like changing. You are driving left hand and then you go right hand. But at the end of it, you can drive any kind of vehicle.
What strategies help diplomatic families feel at home in new places? Rahul emphasizes one quality above all: open-mindedness.
I think what you said about opens up mind, I think that's important. So if you come with an open mind, sometimes we have this tendency, if you come to a new place, you start comparing. But that is a futile effort. You shouldn't compare, take things as they are, because every place has got some advantages, some disadvantages. I'm not comparing, coming with an open mind, but these are some, I think, strategies that help.
This approach, accepting each place on its own terms rather than through comparative judgment, creates space for authentic connection and appreciation. It's a mindset that serves all globally mobile people, not just diplomats. Diplomats play a unique dual role, adapting to local customs while also representing their normal national culture. This cultural balancing act requires thoughtfulness and flexibility.
Yeah, part of our work. So I can talk about every country has its own system, but in India we carry our own stuff. Meaning, if I've got paintings, my utensils, maybe something to do with food or clothes, because we are supposed to showcase India. At the same time, we also want to connect locally, as you say, and adapt local custom.
Food becomes a powerful tool for cultural exchange and connection, though sometimes requiring adaptation to local palates.
Where we invite people to our homes, they get to taste our cuisine, and then That is how you develop friendship. At the same time, you mold yourself a little bit to the local customs. An example that I can give is when I invite people, if I invited them to Romania, we will ensure that the food is not spicy. But when Namibia, if you don't have spicy food, they say, oh, what kind of Indian food is this?
These culinary and cultural exchanges create bridges between societies. One dinner party, one conversation, one relationship at a time. With increasing global uncertainty, I wanted to understand how embassies support their citizens during emergencies. Rahul emphasized that connecting with your embassy should be the first step in any scope of embassy assistance extends far beyond what many citizens realize, covering business challenges, family issues, and of course, emergency evacuation.
In our case, when there's an emergency situation, they should contact the embassy because they are your home away from home. So it's their job to take care of you. And sometimes people start thinking, okay, if I contact them, they will not help. But I don't think any embassy will say no to their own citizens. That's the first priority. In case of India, we have had many evacuations, even in Romania when the Ukraine conflict started. About 8,500 people were evacuated from Ukraine through Romania. And that was a great priority for the government. Till the last person left, the last Indian left Ukraine during conflict, we evacuated everyone. So India, although mostly it's more or less the same, but in case of Indian missions, anytime you are in trouble, any kind, whether it's a family problem, with your business, with your passport, with your travel, any problem, you can come to us. If you're doing fine, or for example, if there's a business company coming wanting to do some deal with someone and all that is happening without our assistance, we are very happy about it. But if something goes wrong, please approach us, we help, because the human factor is also the most important. I can send political reports, I can do some commercial work, which is important. I can do some cultural functions. But when as embassy or diplomats, we are able to help people in trouble, I feel that's the core of our work.
The Indian evacuation effort from Ukraine demonstrated the extraordinary lengths embassies will go to protect their citizens during crisis.
For me, the greatest experience was when we evacuated people from Ukraine. They were mostly young students. In all, we had about 20,000, and out of that, 8,500 were evacuated through Romania in about a week or 10 days. So we ran some 36 flights, and we are not a big mission in Romania. We were just 10 India-based and 10 locals. So to begin with, you had 20 people handling this entire thing blowing around you. So you had huge Danish people. We got later on assistance. More diplomats came in from various countries. But initially, even with that, you had a lot of work. So you were working 10 days without sleep at all. Stay tired. Don't sleep, and then the next day you're working, but you're not tired. Help people in trouble and they are back home safe. You feel, yes, you have done your.
This evacuation effort, coordinated by just 20 people working without sleep for 10 days, the profound human impact of diplomatic work. This G20 presidency demonstrated how digital tools could expand diplomatic reach and inclusion, engaging the global south in unprecedented ways.
Has helped us, number one, be faster and also more effective, because I remember when I joined the service, most of our communication was through faxes, a couple of emails, diplomatic bags, and mostly on telephone. So our telephone bills, fax bills used to be very high. I think we learned during pandemic is when we talked about technology. I think hybrid work sometimes it helps, because every time you can't have a delegation coming to faraway countries just to have discussions. So sometimes we do use the online mode to have meetings. That stayed on after the pandemic also. Some of the bigger meetings also. For example, when India was chairing the G20. So India took this initiative to engage the whole of Global South. So we had three, we called it the Voice of Global South Summit, and we had ministerial sessions there where all the Global South countries were involved. Our Prime Minister participated in all three of them. And we were able to engage with all the countries in a big way during G20, because we could do it that online. Getting everyone at a short notice would have been very difficult, but we wanted them to be part of the G20 process. So we were able to engage with, I think, 120 countries because of the online meetings that we had.
Diplomatic life offers a fascinating lens through which to view global mobility. It amplifies both the challenges and rewards of crossing borders, professionally, culturally, and personally. For those considering diplomatic career, Rahul offered one fundamental piece of advice about the necessary mindset.
Most importantly, you should like the work, because as I said, this is very different from all home-based work that you do. if you feel comfortable staying in a place and not traveling, I would say that you should not then consider diplomacy. But if you are a person who wants to explore the world, go around, meet new people, if you are in that category, then think of diplomacy.
This orientation towards exploration, curiosity, and openness forms the foundation for successful diplomatic careers, mirroring qualities that benefit all globally mobile professionals.
Thanks, you have covered more than what I had expected, so thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
What strikes me most from my conversation with Rahul is how diplomacy institutionalizes the borderless mindset, creating structures, protocols, and career paths that support constant transition while maintaining meaningful connection. Whether we're diplomats, corporate expatriates, digital nomads, or simply curious travelers, we can learn from this balanced approach to global living, embracing new experiences while honoring our roots and responsibilities. This is Mariuk for the Go Borderless podcast. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of diplomatic life. In our next episode, we'll continue our journey through the diverse experiences of global citizens who are transcending boundaries and reshaping our understanding of a home in an interconnected world.